Oh, man. Hello, world. What's up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. Now, Cobra Kai may have won the battle, but the war has just begun. In Season 2 of Cobra Kai, Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso pick up right where they left off and train a new generation in the way of karate. Now, back on Build to tell us all about how they've pulled it off twice now, Cobra Kai creators Jon Hurwitz, Heald and Hayden Schlossberg, and stars William Zabka and Ralph Macchio are back. I'm excited. Are you excited? Come on. I got to hear it. I can't bring them out unless I hear it. Internet people, you better be screaming at your monitors right now. Monitors. And I sound old. Screens. Anyway, we're all excited. They're coming out in just a second. Before we kick things off, though, I do believe we have a trailer for the second season, so let's go ahead and run that clip.
Cobra Kai is back where it belongs. Back on top. But the real story's only just begun.
I thought you were dead.
Cobra Kai never dies.
Ever since the tournament, all I've been thinking about are ways to destroy Cobra Kai.
But opening your own dojo, make sure you can balance that.
Balance is my thing.
We got some new recruits.
Cobras, show them what real karate looks like.
It's just an insane karate cult that's brainwashing half the school.
That's why I'm opening up Miyagi-Do.
So I got to get up and go.
You got room for one more?
Someday the fight may come to you. And I want to make sure you're ready.
Got you.
Time to see what Miyagi-Do is made of.
Something tells me there's a can of wax in my future.
It's a cruel.
All together!
Which one of you has the balls to take on the champ?
My name's Miguel.
Tori. With a Y.
You better hope that your soldiers are ready.
They're kids.
Do you have a crush? Is it Robbie?
The fight is only over when you say it is.
Let's finish the fight. A sensei doesn't teach destruction and disrespect.
We need to talk about what you've been putting in my kids' heads.
Same lessons I taught you. Strike first, strike hard.
No mercy.
Fighting positions?
These things don't end well.
This isn't a tournament, this is real life.
There are no rules.
It's not how I taught you to fight.
You want to finish this?
Bring it on.
Oh, my goodness. Keep it going. Billy Zabka, Ralph Macchio, Jon Hurwitz, Heald and Hayden Schlossberg right here, right now. Unbelievable. Oh, my God. William and crew, welcome back. I cannot believe it. I said it back there. I'll say it again 2 times in a row now. You have blown my mind. This show is fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Oh, my gosh. I can't believe it. And today's the day. This is it. It's all out there.
Right
It's
now.
live and
Right
all
now.
10 episodes
Yes.
out there for anyone to see.
That's right. It's happening. And in fact, this is pretty cool. I saw, and keep me honest here, but the first season anyone can watch right now, I think I saw was released. And then the first episode of this is available.
The first season, anyone can watch the first 2 episodes.
First 2 episodes. There it is.
And then the first episode of the second season is also
available right now. Perfect. That's why I said.
But you got to watch them all.
Oh, no, you have to. Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
There's only one way to watch this, and that's all of it. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this, about the journey, about making it, and how it all came together. First and foremost, as per usual, how's life right now? How are you guys doing? It's always fun to hang out, right?
It's always fun to hang out and have something
Always
to
good to
talk
be in
about.
New York. This is where I was born, so it's good to come home.
Welcome home.
Thank you very much, yes.
Very nice.
Then I'm going to go back to my new home in California, my real home.
Home is where the heart is, right?
That's right.
I feel a lot of love in this room right now, so here we are. We are home. I got to ask, when you were here last time, guys, we talked a lot about, honoring the fan base, honoring the legacy that you guys have created and you're a part of, and all of that pressure and fun stuff. Now coming into season 2, after everyone's established that you crushed it and you did an amazing job, was there a whole new set of anxiety of, oh, great, we set the bar really high. Where do we take the story from here?
Our attitude was just, let's keep telling the story. Yeah. It's like, now let's do episode 11. Don't overthink it. We love Karate Kid. We had a game plan going into into season 2 when we finished season 1. So it was just, hey, people are loving this, so that just encouraged us to keep trusting our instincts, doing what we love to do, and we just went into it. We're thankful to be able to do this. This is the best high-end fan fiction. We love making this show, and to see fans love it as much as we love it just encourages us even more to work on it.
Once you get William and Ralph involved, is it still fan fiction in your head? You're it now. You guys are a part of the legend.
Well, it's kind of like we've entered the story at that point, because you're walking around in the fiction, and there's not a day on set that doesn't feel like okay, what did we win to get us to be able to create what we're doing? But it's really a testament to these guys that we're able to put what we're able to put on screen, because they are hard days on this set. It's there's no easy Cobra Kai day.
I can imagine. And speaking of these guys, coming into season 2, what were you guys really excited to do with these characters? It's already a crazy, rare opportunity to be able to go back and bring these characters back to life and do all this fun stuff. Here we are, season 2. What are you excited about?
Well, a few things. One, we have the entrance of Martin Kove as Sensei Kreese, and a big part of season 2. And he, season 2 starts out at a place where both of these characters, Johnny and Daniel, have good intentions moving forward, even though they disagree about everything. They have good intentions. And so Marty Kove's character throws a wrench in the plans for both of them. One of the things I'm most excited about was bringing forth the Miyagi-Do karate, bringing forth the lessons and the teachings of the great Mr. Miyagi, and that LaRusso wants to spread the gospel, if you will, to the San Fernando Valley to show a better way. And it turns out to not be as easy as he thought. And so I enjoyed that, and also any struggles and hurdles that he would have to overcome where he would put strain on other areas of his life. So that was part of the fun of entering season 2. And then there's so much kick-ass action in the younger generation and our stuff. It's lots of fun.
William, what about you, man? Here we are. You're doing so many incredible things with Johnny, with this character, and like this journey that he's going on, and all these things that we're getting to learn about Johnny. Then Johnny's kind of figuring the world out around him. And what about you, man? You find out you get to do this again. What do you think? What goes through your head?
It's unbelievable, man. And and it's funny, it's like Johnny's going through this. This is the brainchild right here. So I go through it first, and then you get to see it. So these guys behind me, this is like a metaphor of what's going on here.
Sitting above, looking down.
Like looming down. Like I don't have much to say about it.
It's funny. They requested this setup. This was their idea. They wrote
I know.
this
They got a gun in
yeah.
the back of my head. But no, I mean they're creating this incredible. All the way. The layers of all the characters are so amazing. And I think Johnny, we met him as more of a not two-dimensional, but a straight kind of villain. And to get to go, and you've known him this way, to go deep in him now, and deep and wide, and he's where he's stuck in his life and is trying to work it out is thrilling to play. Yeah.
Well, there's so much growth that we get to kind of watch happen over the course of the season, and like some of it just like is also played for comedy. Like when Johnny gets a laptop from the pawn shop for the first time, he's like trying to figure out the internet, and he's just having trouble with it. First of all, that looked like that was a lot of fun to play, and kind of like
that was a lot of fun. That was great. Yeah.
And the second thing that struck me about that moment is as Johnny's going through all of this pop culture and like going through the 80s, it's like it's so weird because you don't. In that moment, you're like, oh my God, they exist in a world where the Karate Kid doesn't exist, right? Like you're living it. It exists, but in a totally different way. So it's like, how much thought went into like, well, if the Karate Kid didn't happen for us as it did as a film, then what pop culture did happen? Like, did you guys get lost in that rabbit hole?
Oh, that's a great question, man.
Not till right now.
No, not at all.
That's
we just yeah. Well, as far as we're concerned, Johnny is still like living in the '80s. Like many of us have an affection for entertainment from our childhood. Remember the rival from high school. We have things from our past that to this day, we carry with us. You get together with old friends from high school, and it's like you're just picking right up again. And for Johnny, we love bringing Johnny to 2018, 2019, and having him see the internet for the first time, because in his mind, computers are for nerds, obviously. So when he gets a computer and he learns about the internet, there's this innocence where it's like a child who basically is like, oh, I could learn more about Iron Eagle, and like I could see hot babes online. I love that.
Well, it's fun because you never really see somebody discover the internet. It just kind of happens slowly for all of us. So for Johnny, it's just one felt swoop. It's like seeing a Playboy magazine for the first time. He's just like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, it's hilarity. Like there's a hilarity in the innocence of those searches that this adult male's had, like hot babes. It's a fantastic moment. Not to spoil anything, but it's great.
There's hot babes in the show. Big
There are.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
If you like,
They're on
if
the
you like
internet.
hot babes.
Got hot babes. Ralph, I'm really curious, man. We saw a little bit of this last season, but especially now with Miyagi-Do and all that stuff of Johnny taking over that role whole as sensei, stepping into Mr. Miyagi's shoes, stepping into that role that that Pat filled. Is that still surreal, or does it feel normal yet? It's got to be crazy when you think back on those memories and see like you're on the other side of that fence, man.
Yeah,
Now
no, I'm way on the other side of that fence. It's interesting. It's I hold that legacy and his performance in that role in all our lives in this original film and to a standard and a level. It's so on the parallel, Ralph is the actor trying to fill those shoes, and Daniel as the student trying to then be the teacher. It's an interesting journey. It's not just because someone has knowledge of a subject doesn't necessarily mean they know how to teach it. And so what happens when you don't have those all those smart ideas on how to reach the kid? And so I love those stumbling blocks for LaRusso trying to find his own way of reaching these kids. And it does happen, and it's really kind of wonderful. What was emotional for me was day one walking on that set, which is just beautifully recreated by our production design and all these guys and all our heads together to make it feel like the Mr. Miyagi's house. And it was very emotional to sort of feel it. Wow, this is where all that magic happened, And so with Pat no longer being here, or director John Avildsen and producer Jerry Weintraub, there was a nostalgic rush of emotion that chapter is gone. But this is where the magic happened, and now we get to create a new version of magic going forward with a new young cast. Unfortunately I'm just the old guy teaching now, but it's
more than just
maybe so. But it's
wise, old wise.
It's wise.
Yeah, certainly wise. Nobody's debating the wise part.
It's kind of listen. Early on in our discussions from day one, it was important to me to have that woven into the fabric of this show, and they've more than delivered on that. And it's something that's I think important because it's part of that Karate Kid universe as much as Cobra Kai is and everything else.
Well, I mean, you talk about weaving everything together. One thing you guys have done masterfully is balance those funny moments like hot babes on the internet and like the serious moments and the reverence and all those, balancing the drama and the comedy. How do you walk that line? How do you guys know when to push one way or the other?
We're just writing the story in a dramatic way. We wanted to continue the story of The Karate Kid, which was not a comedy. It wasn't, Harold and Kumar, a Hot Tub Time Machine. It is a earnest drama, a coming-of-age story, a teenage story, a story about fathers and sons. And we're doing a lot of that now also. It just so happens that there's a karate rivalry that dates back 30 years at the center of this adult kind of discontent. And that in and of itself is funny on the surface. So it naturally takes you to places that are a little bit, dark and disturbing, but funny that it's getting there. And then just having Johnny naturally be that guy who's a little bit stuck in the 80s, or having Daniel dealing with the frustrations of, how to get through to that next generation with the Miyagi-Do techniques, it naturally brings you to that comedy. We don't have to force it in there.
But there's times where it's just like, is this too silly to make, the heart and the serious stuff like matter? And that's where the three of us come in and we say, okay, maybe that would work in one of our comedies, but it doesn't work in this. Or, it's just so funny, screw it, we got to put it in there. And it kind of works that way.
Do you guys have a specific example of that's too funny, screw it, it's got to go in? Was there something that really cracked you up, or even something that you guys that take great joy in and think is really funny?
I don't have a specific example as much as I do have numerous times where I say, really? You're going to go there? And then I sit back and watch the show like you folks and say, wow, really? They went there, and it works.
I love the first season when Nicole Aisha walks in the dojo and the girl, she wants to learn karate. It says no girls allowed in Cobra Kai. Why not? Same reason they're not allowed in the army. Doesn't make sense, And then girls have tiny hollow bones. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
It's so absurd. But it's like from his point of view, in his worldview, if you deliver that straight, it comes off funny.
Yeah, that's just it.
It's earnest when he says it.
Yeah, it's already. Yeah, he means well. He doesn't know. He's kind of Neanderthal, kind of waking up. A little bit.
We're always trying.
He's being de-thawed.
Yeah, I was going to say. We're trying to balance. We're trying to balance the line of exactly how out of it Johnny is, and just that is he too stupid? They always talk about in the Simpsons writers' room. They're always worried about Homer like getting Ralph. Those are characters. With this, it's like Johnny has to be smarter than those guys. But I don't know how much smarter.
And we modulate it in the writers' room, and amongst the three of us, we'll talk about like, is that too much? Is that too far? Is that too silly? Is that nostalgia just for the sake of nostalgia? And we usually moderate a lot of that out before we get to set. But then occasionally on set, we'll say, "Hey, Ralph, try this," and then he'll say, "Really?" And then we'll look at it in post and determine if it was too far.
Yeah, sometimes it does not make it in the end. But I will say this: there's so much. I mean, early on, hearing the pitch of the show, my question was, and I was not the only one, it was every network we went to, but what's the tone? Like, how are you going to, the same question you asked, how do you marry all the feels, the heart, the soul, the drama, and be funny? And they just would say yes, yes, and yes. And we just kept going, and then we saw the series, and it's amen. You know what I mean? We got it. So it's great.
I think The Karate Kid was written perfectly for that time, for that culture, and I think this is the same thing for this time in this culture. Tonally, it's right. It's comedy. It's different. It pushes the envelope in ways. It's shocking compared to what it was in the 80s in many ways, but it's still mild compared to what's out there, And one last thing about Johnny Lawrence, about his Neanderthal. As dumb as he may be or not be, I mean, you can always blame it on the Coors Banquet.
That's true.
Steady supply of
Yes.
Yes. But I do love even rather we want to call it the de-icing is so brilliant. That's a great way to frame it. But it also allows the show an opportunity to comment on to have the message, the right message, and to say and acknowledge sort of this was a different time and my God, can you believe that this is what we thought and this is how we talked and acted, and it's just like it's such a great juxtaposition, and to have him sort of almost like if you remember the Brady Bunch movie in like the 90s where it's like we're just going to take them and put them into the 90s, and we're like, well, like what? And it's like it reminds me a little bit of that, and it's the same level of brilliance. Talk about bringing Martin back into the fold, man. That had to be huge. I mean, he shows up as a teaser at the end of last season, and now here you guys are. You guys have some amazing scenes together, especially you, William. I'm wondering what it was like getting him back on set, and if you guys look around and just go like, who else can we get back on here from back in the day?
We're going through the Rolodex, hitting all the speed dials. Cobra Kai speed dial. Anybody there? Yeah. I'll just speak real quick on Marty. Marty, we've been great friends for many years, so we've actually kicked around ideas like, what do we do with these guys? Is there anything to do? Yeah, no pun intended. But this opportunity came up, and the idea of him playing Kreese. If he was here right now, he'd say, and then I met the guys. The guys called me up, took me out to lunch, and they said, "You're coming in at the end of episode 10, and then why can't I come in at 5?" And it's because we want to save you for the opening of this. So the end of season 1 was the beginning and the tone of that, and now Kreese is back, and it was incredible working with them, and a total blast. And I get to do a little scrapping with them and get beat up physically.
Yeah,
intimidating.
For the story, it was always important that season 1 be this pure way back into this rivalry, and the rivalry was always between these guys. But we knew that we were getting to that place where Kreese enters this world, and bad things might start to happen. And we wanted to sneak up on that and really let that happen and give it room to grow. And it just inevitably gave us that cliffhanger for season 1 that you could get right into as soon as you start season 2.
And he delivers. He delivers a terrific performance, and it's funny because we would get we've been friends for a long time now, so we get these. How's the show going? Like I started Cobra Kai, but I'll have to wait till episode 10. Apparently, and now he's loving it because he's such an integral part of season 2 and hopefully beyond. He certainly came in ready. He was definitely prepared.
What does that mean?
Meaning he spent 30 years waiting for that day.
Yeah, the hardest thing we've asked him to do, I was going to say, the hardest thing we asked him to do was not being in a fight scene or any of these really dramatic, layered scenes. It was just keeping quiet for about a year from the time we told him we're bringing you back till the release of the show, because we're like, we can't let anyone know. It's the big surprise at the end of season 1. And Marty loves this character, and wherever he goes, people are talking about Cobra Kai, and they're like, "There's this Cobra Kai show. Are you a part of it?" And he had to like pretend that he wasn't.
That's a tough thing to
It
do,
was
man.
it was heartbreaking. I became Martin's. I became Martin's Cobra Kai appointed therapist for that year. You know, he had my phone number and he used it. And you know, and what about episode 5 or 6? What if I came in there? You know, and it was just out of this pure love of this was the thing that he was part of. I mean, the name of it is Cobra Kai. He's the sensei of the Cobra Kai dojo. Sure. And we said, trust us, trust us, trust us. The more quiet you are, the bigger this impact is going to be, and the bigger the boom is going to be when the hammer falls.
Christ, man, he must have held a parade when he could finally talk about it.
He leaked it out here and there, but not to the press or anybody like that. But every night, somebody like, "Hey, I hear Marty's coming in episode 10 of Cobra Kai." I'm like, "What?"
We're going to go over to the audience in just a minute, but I was thinking how we were talking earlier about this, the pop culture blind spot where like the show exists in a world where Karate Kid didn't exist. And like you guys, obviously you grew up, you love Karate Kid. Everyone in this room loved Karate Kid. You guys were in Karate Kid. So I imagine your connection to it is a little different than say ours. You lived it, right? And I think like honestly, any of your movies, like My Cousin Vinny, Back to School, like any My Karate Kid, any movie you guys have done, if it comes on, I'm watching it till the end if I didn't put it on purposely, right? So then I start thinking, do you guys have those movies for yourself? Like if you're home, you're just hanging out, you're just William, you're just Ralph, and a movie comes on, it can't be one that you're in. What is your comfort movie? You're in all the ones I like. So what the hell do you watch? Like, what do you do?
There are a couple of them.
Godfather.
And Apocalypse. Apocalypse comes on, I can't stop watching it. Apocalypse Now, and interestingly, Forrest Gump, I'll stick around for. But Apocalypse, The Godfather, you know, shout out to Francis Ford Coppola, you know.
He watches.
Yeah. And The Outsiders. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
And The Outsiders.
No. But, yeah, those are...
Pretty solid list. You want to add anything to that, William? Are you on board?
You know, all of them, all the above. Godfather. I don't know why. The Godfathers have been coming around lately. Carlito's Way. I don't know. I'm just kind of drawn to them right now. That kind of old school stuff. The Professional, Jean Reno. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I can watch it any time of the day. Love that. And then, you know, some like comedies like The Shining and things like that. Just kidding. I've said The Shining twice today. I don't know why.
Well, it's hitting. It worked. Yeah, if you got a good bit, stick
Here's
with it.
Johnny.
Here's Johnny, yeah.
Come on. Dad jokes all day. Dad
Hold for
jokes.
applause.
Wreck-It Ralph 1 and 2. I got kids. That's what I'm watching now. That's the truth.
Completist.
It's Wreck-It Ralph 1 and 2. You
Back
know.
to back.
Yeah.
The whole arc. Yeah,
That's
I
right.
got it.
That's right.
Thank you for indulging me on that ridiculous question. I was just thinking about it. I was like, these guys are in everything I like. What do they watch? I appreciate that. To that end, we've got some amazing questions coming our way. I believe we've got at least one from Twitter and a bunch in the room. The first one is from Twitter. It's from Boku20. Great name. What was your favorite scene to film? Great question. Thank you, Boku20.
In Cobra Kai?
They probably mean Cobra Kai. Let's
Okay.
go ever. In the history
of my body of
they
work.
left it open. Let's cast a wide net.
You go first, sir.
Favorite scene in film was in Back to School when I was doing the cramp. I was walking up and I had a really bad cramp. That was my favorite scene. Yeah. Well, that's the Chaz
No,
bit.
I know, but
yeah.
you didn't actually have
No, I didn't really have one. No, honestly, that was actually one of the most fun scenes I ever filmed was the in Back to School. I know we're getting off topic a little bit.
No, it's fine.
Was the scene where he's singing "Shake It Up, Baby" in the bar scene, the big bar fight. Robert Downey comes in. Sam Kinnison's in that room. It was like this old school like mustard flying across the room and big old classic brawl. Like that was one of my most fun scenes I ever shot. The other fun scene I shot was when I crane kicked him in the face.
I was going to say, no, you stole mine.
Oh, wait.
I was teeing that
sorry,
up.
wait. Is that how it happened?
I was teeing that up, man. It's okay. Yes.
Well done.
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is a tough question, but to pick one. Still one of my favorite scenes in Cobra Kai is our first scene together. End of episode 102, so first season, second episode is our first scene acting together in 30 million years, and it had everything and beyond of what I expected, more than I expected, and just our chemistry together. And that at the end of that day, I was like, well, this can really be good. Like, it wasn't just like a good idea, good writing. It was, which you need to get going, but it was about taking it up to another level, and so that was really awesome for us. Some scenes in The Outsiders, because I read that book when I was 12. I got to say, stay gold, Pony Boy. I mean, come on. And then crane kicking Billy in the face too.
Yeah.
Because we're looking for the.
There's an awesome. I think it just dropped like 6 days ago, like an ESPN 30 for 30.
Yeah,
LaRusso versus Lawrence. That came out amazing. How did that come about? Whose idea was that? Was that?
That was something that we've been talking with YouTube about since the beginning of before we even shot season 1. It was something that would be really cool to put together as a piece of promotion for the show, and didn't come together season 1. It was something that we know that the team at YouTube were like, we didn't forget about that. We want to make sure that it happens this year. And it was a group effort. Everyone came together, and we're thrilled with how it turned out.
Yeah, we all are. We just love how they took that. I mean, I love all those ESPN 30 for 30s, but they really did a great job, because you take this moment and you make it like Ali Frazier, and you break it down, and with the old footage, it is really well done, and anyone who hasn't seen it should check it out. It's really a lot of fun.
It's pretty amazing. What do I got? I got 4 in the room. Fantastic. So let's get going then. First one, you have a microphone. Go for it.
Hello.
Hey, man, how are you?
So I've been a huge Karate Kid fan, ever since I can remember. And some of my favorite things are the fight scenes. So I was wondering if you guys could go into one of your favorite things about shooting fight scenes with each other, maybe like how difficult it is.
It's more difficult now than it was then. We really, the scenes in the original film, mainly the big tournament scene, was something we rehearsed for months, and it was really like a ballet, just well choreographed, and it still plays. That was the first time I saw what editing can do. There were certain runs of moves, kicks, and punches and stuff that were, maybe about 6 to 8 moves, but with proper editing, and John Avildsen, who directed Rocky and The Karate Kid, at the helm, just made that stuff look so spectacular. I was like, boy, I look a lot better than I felt. But it's my biggest thing is when I was a little kid, I would fight with my brother, and we do the fake pillow fight and punch fights, and I'd always be like, making all the sound effects. It took me almost the whole shoot. Our stunt choreographer, Pat Johnson, he would cut because I was making all these noises. Every time Billy hit me, I was like, he says, stop, your mouth is going like this constantly. So that's a little bit of tidbit. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. We trained, the first one we trained 3 months, every day, 5 days a week almost, before we did it. So we had a lot of prep time. On this show, I mean, we have a little scrap in this one. It's given away in the teaser, so I'm not spoiling anything. But, that we had maybe, 2 days.
Here's the camera. Stand over there, start kicking each other.
I mean, in between shooting everything else, we were like and by the way, tomorrow you're shooting your fight scene with Ralph. What fight scene, And then we're in the room, and, and it's coming together this fast, and it's super elaborate, and there's 2 stunt guys showing us how we're going to do it, and then, then we're learning it, and then we're going home and doing it. There wasn't much time, and then came back the next day, and you have to stay a lot more stretched and all that. And, we had a lot more time, like we did. The difference for me and we did Karate Kid, we had more time we did it with pads on, and we really got precise. So he could put a block up, and I could stop within an inch of his arm. But on this one, we didn't have much time, so he'd go do a block, and I mean,
it hurt.
We're just like, if the punch lands,
he was all red.
I beat up my biceps so much. I showed the guys, and when we were filming, they're like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Look that's black and blue."
He said to me,
"Take your hand and ram it against a pole 50 times, and then look at your arm." That's what I'm doing right now. So
it was brutal. I mean, the bottom line is we're on a very
good question.
Yeah, we're on a very tight schedule on the show. We're making a lot of content in a short period of time, and these guys and our stunt team, our stunt coordinators Hiro Koda and Janelle Kerfman, are fantastic, and they're constantly training all of the actors. When the actors are not acting, they're training. Everyone's working all the time together, and everyone wants to be on camera. They want as little that they can have with the stunt performers sort of in their place, the better. So, Billy is, always wants to make sure he's there. So he takes a beating, and his arm looked pretty bad that day.
It's pretty amazing. I was thinking when you guys were talking about how the editing, like you're there doing it. That's a testament to it. You're getting bruised. You're doing the fighting. But yeah, once you get the editing done, it takes this thing that you've already achieved and brings you to like superhuman level. When you guys were kids, I don't know if I got to ask you this last time, but after that was out in the wild, did you get approached all the time that people that thought they were like tougher than you, or thought that they just saw you, like both of you, like engage in this amazing brawl on the big screen, and they were like, if I ever run into them, I'll show them. Like sometimes guys that are like really big and strong, like people always think they could fight me. And I'm wondering, after you've been portrayed as this superhuman level of stringing all these moves together, if you ever had any blowback from that, of people expecting you to be that guy.
I don't think so. I heard in the Valley there were some guys looking for me after Karate Kid came out. It's the truth. It's the truth. And I had a buddy from high school who told me this story, and he said, yeah. He said there was some karate gang in the Valley for real.
That's amazing.
Did I tell you this ever? Yeah. And he said, but I told him that, you know, I went to high school with you and you're like the nicest guy, not to worry about it. I'm like, thank you, you know. But I don't know if he was saying that, so I felt like, you know, like, thanks for saving me. But I never met them. It's not like they ever approached me or anything like that. I'm sure Ralph got it all the time.
Yeah, all the time. No, I remember our AD on that film, Cliff Coleman. He worked on Rocky. He said, you know, Stallone had a lot of problems with people wanting to, you know, challenge him. So you're going to have to be careful. So he put the fear of God in my eyes. All of a sudden, the movie's a hit, and I'm looking like this around every corner. I find then if anyone approached me, they just like look me up and down and be like, you know, it's like when Harrison Ford pulls the gun on the guy and Raiders. He's just like, he's not gonna waste my time.
Amazing. We got a couple more. All right, 3 more. Let's go. Next one. Come on down if you've got a microphone. Yeah, come on down. Don't be over here.
Hey guys.
Be part of the show.
Full disclosure, I actually binge watched season 1 up until midnight, and I actually finished season 2 like 2 hours ago.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah.
You want to do the interview? Why are you only saying this now?
Yeah.
Are you awake right now?
Yeah. No spoilers.
Great, right?
Obviously. Yeah, it's great.
It's so good.
I think one of the reasons why the show works so well is because all this like miscommunication, this like whole assumption thing, and especially how it's intensified with social media, how you integrate it into the show, it works. It creates this drama and tension, and while everything could be solved with if everyone just like talked to each other, I think for the sake of story, it works well to create this drama and tension that I love in the show. And so that leads me into one of my questions. So as a film student, one of my biggest fears going into the season was the abundance of characters. In season 1, you introduce all these teenage characters who each play, you know, a unique role next to Danny and Johnny. And so going into season 1, how important to you was it to balance these character arcs, making sure each character held the spotlight, and if it was crucial, if it crossed your mind, how much thought did you give it going into season 2, knowing you've established these character arcs, knowing you're going to reintroduce Marty Cove as Kreese and Peyton List as Tori? How do you not only develop these characters, but also preserve and move forward with old ones from season 1?
Great question. Long question. Great question. Yeah, I mean, one of the things we love about the show is that we have so many characters. You know, we love big ensemble comedies and dramas that have a lot going on. Ours has 2 distinct teams happening with families and estranged, you know, father figures and everything else. We work in the writer's room most of the time on that very question and making sure that nobody falls completely into the background, that even if there's a character who's not the center of the action on any given day, there is forward momentum. And when you lean into one character more heavily, you try to pull in some of the characters that are in that character's orbit as much as possible, so they keep putting one foot in front of the other, and things don't get put on pause. And you say, oh, they started that great thing in episode 2 and nothing really happened, and that was a missed opportunity. We try to manage out the missed opportunities by really looking at it and plotting it. I mean, if you want to get real micro, you know, we put big cards on the wall with every character's name, and we write 1 through 10, and we make sure that every single character in our universe is having something specific to do. And that might be something very minor in some episode where they're not the crux of that episode, but it might be because the next episode they're going to be the hero. And we like having those unexpected moments where anyone can step into the foreground.
Thank you for doing your homework. That was a great question.
Go get some sleep.
Yeah. We've got time for 2 more questions. The next one is going to be right over there. Go for it, sir.
Hi, guys. Great work. Love the show. It's amazing. Going back to the pop culture within the series, there's a lot of 80s references, a lot of great quote-unquote hair bands, great music in the series. Is there any plans to put out a soundtrack? And William, do you really drink banquets?
And do you really drink banquets? As a tag, do you really drink banquets?
You know, in terms of putting out a soundtrack, I believe that they put out playlists on the YouTube on the Cobra Kai channel on YouTube. They did with season 1. I believe they're going to do it with season 2. It may also be on Spotify and YouTube Music and some other elements like that. In terms of a physical soundtrack of all the songs, I'm not sure if that's going to come together. We do have, and I think it was dropping actually today as well, the score for season 2. The score for season 1 came out already. Score for season 2 just came out today, and it also includes Kerry Kimmel's rendition of "Cruel Summer," which is something that you've heard a version of that in the trailers, and it was amazing. That obviously that's one of our favorite songs from the original Karate Kid, and we knew going into the season that we loved the idea of this sort of cruel summer theme, and we wanted to find an artist to record that song. So we reached out to Carrie, who worked on, who had a song in season 1 that we loved. We loved her voice, and she delivered immensely. It's a huge, huge part of the marketing and the show.
The more important answer, the part of the question was, do I drink Coors Banquet? I don't drink Coors Banquet, because it's all filled with water. But my first beer was Coors because my dad drank Coors. And when we used to work in the backyard, we've built our house and painted our fence. For real, we actually
because he was Miyagi-Do.
Honestly, funny enough, I never said this all coming in. We used to scrape the fence every single summer in our backyard and paint the fence. No kidding, we'd scrape it and paint it, and we'd drink Coors. Isn't that interesting?
It's a classic.
So
dad
strange
beer.
how different but same.
I was
our
9 years old at the
parallels are.
time, so
yes, but yeah, different time. But I love the Coors Banquet bottles, especially because you can flip the caps. Yeah. That's one.
It's a fun beer. It's the bottles, really,
yeah.
what it is. Yeah. Anyway, that's another great question. And we've got time for one more. Last question coming from right over here. Go for it.
How does Cobra Kai differ from its predecessor, The Karate Kid? What's new? The major difference?
I mean, one of the things we always talk about is Karate Kid was, in its structure of character, very black and white. It was good over evil, right? Miyagi and Daniel were good. Cobra Kai and Johnny were bad. In Cobra Kai, those lines are blurred at times. Episode to episode, your allegiance could change on who you're rooting for. There are flaws within all these characters, and we dive in more into the gray areas, which makes it more complex in a long form. That's one of the differences that I see. You guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big one, is that this is so many years later. These guys aren't kids anymore. It's not a David versus Goliath story about this, upstart kid in the valley who takes on the dominating karate gang. It's a story about adults with resentments and grudges and families and flaws, and it's a story about the kids of the valley today going through all of that, except there isn't just one Daniel LaRusso in that bunch. There's a lot of kids with a lot of different issues, and we're not telling the story of good versus evil. We're telling the story of a lot of gray.
But yet the themes, bullying, mentorship, fatherhood, are all still a
teen
through line of
romance.
both. Teen romance and a great young cast. We're really in love with this young cast. It will keep us going, we hope.
Yeah, man. Well, season 1 and 2 are absolutely perfect. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us again.
Thank you, man.
I hope to make it an annual tradition.
That's
we'll get
right.
you back for the
You
next
too.
one.
See you next spring.
That's
I
right.
hope.
We'll see you next spring. Fingers crossed. I want to thank everybody for watching, for our Twitter question, for all of our audience members in here. Thank you. You guys are fantastic. And now let's do it upright. Let's end it the right way. Make a ridiculous amount of noise and join me in thanking William Zabka, Ralph Macchio, Jon Hurwitz, Heald and Hayden Schlossberg for being here. Please.